Before you get into your science expo, you need to take a careful look at what is plagiarism and how do you reference work. So I'm going to give a quick little lesson on that. First thing is we need to know what is plagiarism, and plagiarism is to take another person's ideas or writing and use them as your own. And it comes from the word that means to kidnap, and it is a serious offense. You cannot steal other people's intellectual property. Plagiarism includes taking the text that someone else has written, in other words, cutting and pasting or retyping material word for word. So that includes copying somebody else's work, in your class even. If you have asked an extra lesson teacher or a parent to do your homework for you, or help you with it, and hand it in as your own work, that is also plagiarism. You can also, if you take any visual material, so that's any sort of a picture, a photograph, a drawing, a diagram, a painting, and not acknowledge the source. When you use other people's visual material, you need to put their name at the bottom. If you copy sentences that others have written and then just change one or two words, it's the same thing. You have also stolen it and putting someone else's ideas into other words, but you do not acknowledge the author. That is also stealing someone's work. What happens with plagiarism? If there's plagiarism in your grade 12 portfolio, then it can be considered an irregularity and they can withhold the marks. If plagiarism is evident at university, then they are going to expel you. It is serious, it is theft of intellectual property. So how do we avoid plagiarism? The first thing is that we must reference our work. It's fine to use somebody else's material on condition that you reference it. Any book, website, magazine, newspaper, personal interview, DVD, CD, encyclopedia, email, you have to reference. How do you reference them? If you're going to reference a website, you look for the organization or the author's name of the website. On what date was this site? And often at the bottom of a website it says about us or something. Then you'll find the date of the site. What is the title of the site? What is the website address? And what date did you go in? Let's take an example. If they wanted to ask us about textbook stealing, if you have got the most recent time of case of textbook stealing happened in the Eastern Cape, and it was in 2008, but the website you accessed was written in 2009, that might not be true information. However, if you access a website that was written in 2009, and you are looking at something about the Second World War, it's probably valid. So it's just important that we understand when the site was written, when you went into the site, to see exactly what the meaning of everything is. The other thing to remember is that websites have to be credible. Any idiot can post any old rubbish on the internet. So how do you know the credibility of websites? It's not always easy, but you can often, if you can cross-reference them to more than one website, you know that it's probably true. But also, maybe websites, the first few years at university, they often forbid you from using websites. You may only use credible journals because of the fact that any rubbish can go onto the internet. Let's say I wanted to reference this picture over here. The correct reference for it is wikipedia.org, and maybe I could even put the page that I went to. This picture was not referenced like that. Google is never a reference. Never, ever, ever do you use Google as a reference, because Google is a search engine and not a reference. Also, when you're referencing, you never put all this gobbledygook afterwards, because that is just that. It is gobbledygook. If you want to reference a book, you put the author's name, and we're going to look at an example now where Bill Bryson writes a book in 2003 called A Short History of Everything. It's published in Great Britain by Black Swan Books. This is important because not any old idiot can publish a book. Only credible publishers in credible places can publish a book. because publishing a book means printing it, and therefore not any old rubbish will be printed. And that is why book references are always more credible than website references. So here it is. Bill Bryson is the author, A Short History of Nearly Everything. I look inside the book to see that it was published in 2003. Who published it? It was published by Swan Publishing, and Black Swan Books published this. And where did they publish it? They published it in Great Britain. If I want to reference a DVD, I'm going to give the author's name or the producer's name, the year, the title, where was it published, and by. Again, a DVD has to be produced, and therefore publishing it takes time and money, and so it won't just be any old rubbish. What the bleep, down the rabbit hole, and then this is, if you dig around in here, you'll find where it was published and the date of publishing and all of that sort of thing. There we go, there's the date, 2006, and you can see that it was Revolver Entertainment that did the publishing. If I want to reference a magazine article, I say what the magazine's name was, what date it was published, what the article was called, what page it was on, and who wrote the article. So here is a New Scientist. It is a scientific journal. Move over Polar Bear. It's all about global warming, written by William Lawrence on page 14. There's a difference between a reference list and a bibliography. A bibliography is all the different books you might have read to get to where you're at. A reference list specifically references certain things. Reference list is a list of all the references in the text. These should be given whenever references are cited, and that's called citation referencing. In grade 10, we're not going to insist on citation referencing, but as you get older, you actually need to say at the exact point in the text where you have referenced things. A bibliography is just a list of sources on a particular topic. You may or may not have referred to the material in your particular text. Usually, when you are doing work at school, you actually give a reference list, not a bibliography. So, how do you know that you haven't plagiarized? You think about, have I got any pictures downloaded from the internet or anywhere else? And have I acknowledged those? Have I cut and pasted anything from the internet? Have I copied anything directly from a source? If I have, I need to put it into inverted commas, and I need to make sure that it is referenced. How many has new information been referenced, and have all references been cited? A common misconception is that you just have to stick a list at the end. That's okay till the end of grade 9, but as you get older and as you go into grade 10, 11, and 12, you actually need to say that specific bits of information came from specific sites. And that is called citation referencing, and it actually involves, for example, putting a little number 1 there and saying that came from the website A or B. So when you're doing your Science Expo, make sure that any information that you've researched has been correctly referenced.